As we near the halfway point of 11.18, it's time to update you guys on how the changes have impacted the meta. Soraka has turned out extremely broken thanks to her buff, while Fizz is one of the biggest losers due to his ult nerf. Our Challenger experts spend hours playing and researching games in Diamond and below, and combined with analyzing all the recent data, we strive to bring you the most accurate solo queue tier list for the majority of elos. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description for a special discount. Renekton mains have been absolutely tortured throughout Season 11, and as a result of the nerf in 11.18, he's in a terrible spot. We were conservative with our ranking in the pre-patch update, moving Renekton into C tier, but he'll now be dropping to the depths of D tier for mid-patch. Even if you're a one-trick Renekton, we would advise looking elsewhere, as he's just not worth playing in his current state. Urgot, on the other hand, is now one of the best solo queue top laners after his set of buffs. We moved Urgot into S tier for the pre-patch update tier list, and that's where he will remain as the patch moves forward. Urgot fares extremely well into most meta top laners, so he's a very consistent pick we would recommend adding to your champion pool. As expected, Gangplank remains in an underwhelming state even after his 11.18 buffs. You really need to know what you're doing on GP to make him worthwhile right now, so for the majority of players, we would advise to look elsewhere. Scaling is still there, but early game is a pain, which in turn makes it more difficult to reach that late game state. If you're not able to make a consistent impact on the early game, then you're constantly coin flipping, which is not something you want to be doing. Looking at our top lane tier list, we have Set in OP as he continues to thrive in 11.18. Despite the Camille nerf, she's in a good spot right now, just not as broken as before. Turns out Singed Ultimate Grievous Wounds are not applying to all damage, but instead only on Q. However, his strength is shot up nonetheless. Singed is one of the more underrated S tier picks for 11.18. Jace isn't in as bad of a spot as Renekton, but his nerf puts him below many other picks on the tier list. Experienced Jace players can still make him work, but for the average player, there are better options. Mundo, Garen, and Yorick are once again our top 3 picks to stomp low elo, while Set, Camille, and Tahm Kench are the best bans. Mid-patch is relatively quiet in the jungle role, but one adjustment we'll be making is moving Amumu into OP tier. Especially for Diamond and below, Amumu is a must-pick or ban in 11.18. His buffs from last patch have been godlike to say the least, so if your main goal is to climb, then look into picking up the Sad Mummy. 2 Q charges provide you with very versatile engage paths, lots of chain CC potential, and insane sticking power. When ganking, you can use your first charge onto the minion wave to close the gap, and then use the second onto the enemy, which makes your ganks way more successful. It's crazy how one simple change can completely shift the outlook on a champion, but that's exactly what's happened with Amumu. Lee has been one of the most popular junglers over the past months, and for good reason. 11.18 Lee is definitely weaker and not the picker ban jungler he was in previous patches. 2 consecutive nerfs have brought Lee's power level down to a respectable A tier position. There are better junglers to choose from, but if you're a strong Lee player, he's definitely still a great pick this patch. For an update on Zed jungle, he's landed where our analysts predicted. Buff to Zed's clear is nice, but we didn't expect much out of it due to Zed's kit not providing anything special in the jungle. Zed's win rate hovers below 44% even with this buff, so that gives us good confidence to leave him in C tier for 11.18. On the flip side, Talon was the one unconventional jungler our analysts had high hopes for, and he's proving to be a viable option. Hovering around a very respectable 49% win rate, jungle Talon is not something you want to sleep on. W buff amplifies Talon's clear speed, and since his skirmish and gank potential is so much greater than that of Zed, you're seeing this shine through in the win rate difference. Run Ignite instead of Flash so that your early kill potential is even greater. For the time being, Talon will keep his spot in B tier, but as the patch moves on and we gather more information, a bump into A tier may not be too far down the road. Breaking down the jungle tier list, we have Amumu and Jarvan as the most broken picks for 11.18. Both really great teamfight junglers with amazing pick potential, which is highly valuable for the solo queue environment. Although Fiddle tends to fly under the radar, his power level for 11.18 is extremely high. The Predator buffs have made the rune a viable option and gives him much more gank pressure early on. Of course, at level 6, your ganks are ridiculously strong, but now that you have extra potency pre-6, it makes Fiddle way more well-rounded. Qiyana changes haven't resulted in anything too crazy concerning her power level as a jungler, so she remains in C tier. Mundo buffs have have turned out pretty underwhelming, so we'll be shifting him back down to C tier. Like we mentioned, Talon is without a doubt the best unconventional jungler who was recently buffed, so if you're looking to spice up your champion pool, then he's a great addition. The best low elo junglers for 11.18 are Amumu, Trundle, and Jarvan. A couple good bans to consider are Shinzao, Jarvan, and Amumu. For our question of the day, do you guys follow the pro scene at all, and if so, which team is your favorite? With Worlds approaching, it will be interesting to see how hard NA will choke, and if EU can make it back to another finals appearance. So many great players will be at Worlds this year, as Faker, Showmaker, Viper, Do and B, just to name a few, will be exciting to watch. Heading over to mid lane, Taliyah changes have been super positive so far, even with Riot stating that there are 2 bug fixes that they're looking into. Supposedly, one of the bugs is that her Q is not refunding the cooldown on worked ground as it should. Once these bugs are hashed out, we definitely see Taliyah as one of the best solo queue mid laners. For now, as these bugs are present, we will shift Taliyah from S down into A tier, but expect her to jump back into S next patch if the bug fix changes go through. Fizz ultimate nerfs have not been kind to him so far, and Riot has stated he'll be in line for some buffs in 11.19. We mentioned in our pre-patch tier list the changes could go one of 2 ways. Pre-6 Fizz is a little stronger now, so if you're able to get ahead, the ultimate nerf theoretically wouldn't hurt as bad. Turns out that hasn't really been the case, as the ultimate nerf has heavily outweighed the early game buffs. All in with Ultimate is Fizz's bread and butter, so lowering its potency has led to a decrease in strength. We'll be moving Fizz into B tier for mid-patch, however, it's likely he shifts back into A if he's buffed for 11.19. Zoe buff has resulted in a pretty underwhelming outcome so far. Our analysts were optimistic that shaving a few seconds off E would help shift Zoe into A tier, but it hasn't worked out that way. Mages like Zoe are just too risky to pick in the current solo queue meta, as she's getting stomped by highly contested champs like Yasuo, Yone, Katarina, Irelia, and Uxin. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, Zoe will remain an average B tier pickup. For the complete mid lane tier list, we have Uxin, Katarina, and Zed as the hard carry picks of 11.18. Other than shifting Taliyah and Fizz, the meta holds up very consistent to where we had it in pre-patch. We've highlighted the Tryndamere mid in one of our OP off-meta videos a month or 2 ago, and he's finally starting to garner more attention. Early kill potential into squishy mids is great, and then at level 6, you just straight up dive anyone under tower when ult is available. Trynd is a great answer to most assassin mids as they rely on burst, and as long as you can time your ultimate correctly, it counters them super hard. Pantheon is another very undervalued mid pick who you can use to shut down assassin mids. Our top 3 low elo recommendations for mid lane are Kayle, Malzahar, and Annie. Katarina, Zed, and Uxin are highly valuable ban options. No matter how Riot tries to nerf Ashe, she's shrugged off every single hit and continues to dominate the ADC meta. W cooldown was increased in 11.18, but it hasn't affected Ashe to the level we had expected. Because of this, Ashe will be moving back into OP tier as one of the best ADC pickups. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Kalista saw a nerf this patch and is in an unplayable state for solo queue. Kalista win rate has plummeted to 46%, so the stats back up our placement of the pick even further. Lots of better alternatives above Kalista on the tier list, as she will be diving down into D tier. MF is one of the biggest winners of 11.18, as the ultimate buff is giving her extra strength combined with a new build. We'll go into more detail about this build in our video tomorrow, but it's a lethality setup that T1 ADC Guma UC has been abusing. Low elos especially, MF is seeing a ton of success, so she'll shift into S tier for mid-patch. Twitch ultimate buffs have turned out relatively impactful, so an adjustment from B into A tier is in store. Kraken Hurricane Spike with the added damage on ultimate gives you a very potent mid-game now. Downsides to Twitch remain evident though, which is why he doesn't move any further up the tier list, but a solid A tier pick for 11.18 nonetheless. Alright, the ADC tier list will consist of Ashe, Ziggs, Jhin, and Draven as the premier picks of the patch. Draven buffs have been treating him super well so far, and he is a godlike pick, especially if you can pilot him well. Ashe, Ziggs, and Jhin are all super consistent options who are perfect for solo queue, as they offer more than just damage, which allows you to be useful no matter the state of the game. Kai'Sa continues to disappoint as a below average pickup despite her E buff. To be fair, the champion had a long run on top of the meta earlier in the season, so less Kai'Sa isn't necessarily a bad thing. Pro-focused nerfs targeted towards Aphelios and Varus have left them in weaker states compared to the rest of the solo queue competition, as they are placed in C tier. The best low elo bot lane carries to climb are Ziggs, Misfortune, and Ashe. A few good bans to consider are Jhin, Samira, and Draven. Whoever thought removing the only counterplay to Soraka was a good idea didn't think this through very well, as she has skyrocketed in power for 11.18. Grievous wounds are now removed whenever Soraka ults, which has provided her team fight with a serious boost in strength. Win rate has shot up from 50 to 53%, while her play rate has doubled. We had Soraka rated as one of the best S tier options in our pre-patch update, but are now forced to move her into OP as it's apparent the buff is a little much. Don't forget Redemption was just buffed a few patches back too, so it's not only this direct buff that's contributing to her power shift. We featured Amumu support in our off-meta video for 11.17, and his play rate has started rising a significant amount since then. Many pro players are actually spamming Amumu support at the moment and seeing amazing results. Stats don't lie either, as Amumu has upwards of a 53% win rate in 11.18. As more players pick up on how broken the champion is, we expect his ban rate to rise quite quickly, so look to abuse him while you can. Amumu will be joining Soraka in the OP tier as a highly valuable option for this patch. As one unconventional pick like Amumu enters the meta, another exits, with Trundle nerfed in 11.18. Trundle's pro play presence left Riot with no option other than to nerf him, as they targeted his E slow. The impact of this nerf has led to a considerable power shift, and therefore Trundle will be moving from A into B tier. For the first time in Season 11, we can confidently say that Thresh is no longer a top tier solo queue support. It's about time though, as Riot has nerfed Thresh 6 times this season and he's finally feeling the effects. With other aggro supports like Blitz and Amumu as strong as they are right now, it's time to move on from Thresh. A tier is where you'll find Thresh on the tier list for 11.18. It's been a while since we've seen a considerable shakeup to the support meta, but we finally got it for 11.18. For so many patches, we saw one of Leona, Thresh, or Lulu in almost every single game, but that started to change. Amumu, of all champions, is a top tier option. Soraka is very broken at the moment, while Blitz and Sona have been staples the past few patches after their buffs. Yuumi will be moving up into S for mid-patch, as the passive buff has helped push her into a very strong state. Sona, Blitzcrank, and Zyra are the highest priority low elo supports if your main goal is to climb. Best ban options are Lulu, Blitzcrank, and Soraka. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank-up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we are able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $4.99 a month if you are serious about improving. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, good luck in solo queue and have a great day.